Or a video.
Yeah, we're live still.
Okay, welcome to the Tuesday, August 4th, 2026 meeting of the Westminster Board of Zoning Appeals. Call the meeting to order. With that, we'll go around the room and introduce members of the board as well as a staff that might be here. I'm Scott Graff, Chair of the BZA.
Richard Hess, Vice Chair of the BZA.
Peter Basile, member BZA.
Nate Foreman, Attorney for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
And Mark Keeper, the Director of Community Plan and Development for the city.
I'd like to officially welcome Mr. Foreman as attorney.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the approval of the meeting summary. We don't have copies in front of us this evening, but has everybody had a chance to read that? Do they have any changes and recommendations? Okay, hearing none, take a motion to approve the meeting summary from the June 2nd, 2026 meeting.
Also move.
So moved. I'll second. Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Once I get a hard copy, I'll sign that and get it.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is BZA case number 26-03, a special exception at 166 Airport Drive in Westminster. This is an application for a public hearing by New Cut Incorporated. Stephen G. Hall, trustee, the property owner, collectively referred to as the applicant here, requesting approval of an expansion of a special exception to permit a private indoor recreation facility subject to the requirements of subsection 164-155.2, subject to the requirements of Article 10, the restricted industrial zone, section 164-54L, and section 164-155.2 of the City of Westminster zoning ordinance for a property located at 166 Airport Drive, Unit 7, Westminster, Maryland 21157. With that, I will open this up to accepting exhibits that have been presented prior to. We have exhibit 1 being the case itself, staff report. I also have an original decision. I think the rest of these are not particular.
It's in the front of the actual staff report. Yeah.
How is it?
Yeah, staff report dated August 4th, 2026 for case 2603.
Okay, so the case, the staff report would be exhibit 1, the case number A08-4 decision will be exhibit number 2. Board of Zoning Appeals application for special exception. Exhibit number 3, a pre-hearing statement dated March 7th, 2024. Exhibit 4, proof of advertisement, newspaper posted, sign affidavit. Exhibit 5, does the applicant or staff have anything else to present? Not in this list.
We do. It is the it's section 164-155.2, which referenced in the title. This was not provided to the members or in the staff report itself. But this is the section that the actual use is subject to additional regulation.
So we'll accept that. Exhibit number 6, everybody in favor of the exhibits as presented? Objections? No objections to the favor. Let the record show that the exhibits 1 through 6 at this point we submitted and presented. Then I'll ask if anybody has any pre-hearing statements that they would like to present to the BZA prior to the actual start testimony. That's me. I'm just asking if anybody had any pre-hearing statements.
No.
And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant to present the case.
Thank you. The property question, of course, is 166 Airport Drive. Just to clarify, if I may, my brother Steve,
And if you can state your name for there.
I'm sorry,
You can state your name for there.
I'm sorry, my name is Richard Hall, Hull. I'm the president of New Cut Incorporated and also trustee of my brother's trust, Stephen Hall Trust. Mr. Stephen Hall passed away in 2018, and I've been managing the entire building. If I could refer you just for general.
I assume since he's the only one here that he'll still have to swear in for the testimony.
Sorry.
Since we don't have any witnesses, I'm gonna still swear you in for testimony. So do
I
you
swear,
swear? Testimony to the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth is.
Take a second.
If I may refer you to the next to the last page of the staff report, there's a overlay area.
Page 3 of 11 of the staff report.
Yeah. That. So just over 3.5 acres. It's owned by my brother Stephen Hall's trust, my late brother. When we wanted to build this building in 2006, he started the process. We found out there was not enough frontage on the publicly maintained road to do a subdivision. So he was willing to subdivide 1.6 acres off of the back for me, but we didn't have the frontage to do it. So I'm going to say that the question today is my New Cut Incorporated area that east from him. I leased 1.6 acres from the trust. Built this building in 06, 07, and we've occupied it with various tenants. Since then, it's been pretty much full. Rarely have any vacancies at all. In 2008, we had an applicant from out at the name of Bounce with me, and you approved that areas of units 8, 9, and 10, a total of 6,800 square feet for use for an indoor recreational facility, and they used it for indoor bounce units. We have 18-foot high ceilings that work pretty well for their large blow-up items, and they held parties, birthdays, that kind of thing. They went out of business a few years later. And in 2012, still an indoor recreational facility. That same area was leased to TSOR, which is a gymnastics training center. And they train children for gymnastics and cheerleading. So they have a lot of equipment in there, and Mr. Rolf Abutalin was a Russian gentleman. He's lived here his entire life, second generation here. But prior to him moving over here as a child, he was actually on the Russian Olympic team applicant for it anyway. I don't know whether he actually participated, but anyway, he's very talented, and I think we're lucky to have him running this facility, and it's been successfully run since 2012 with a number of students. In fact, I think Bryce Wagner's daughter is one of the students there, so he has good things to say. The lot, I'm going to argue, Counselor, that the lot in question that we're talking about is 1.68 acres that I'm leasing from the trust, which would comply with the 3-acre maximum limit of the overall lot. Of course, that my leased area is a part of is just over 3 acres. So we have a very minor distinction there, if I may.
It's up for the board to decide whether they believe that will be sufficient, but I think it's important to put that in the record.
Right.
You don't have to convince me, I'm just making sure that this.
I understand. I'm sure they're gonna look for some guidance. But anyway, that's the background story. The there is mostly occupied evenings and weekends. Except for several times during the year, they do hold regional events there, and they're still done over the weekends. So it worked out well with the other tenants. And if I need to go back and talk about my responses to the request of
Why don't you walk us through the special exception criteria? If you have the staff report, it would be on the Roman numeral 4.
would you like to read that into the record?
No, if you could just go point by point and just talk about how the expansion of the use may not impact.
The notes, if I go through item A, of course, the board's responsibility to make the determination. Item B, deciding such matters, the board can consider the following factors, and that the applicant has addressed the majority of section 164-69 criteria. And they are as follows. Number one, number of people residing or working in the area. There is no proposed change to that. It will be run by the same staff and just allows him to expand the equipment for cheerleading and training into the unit 7. Unit 7, by the way, is an additional 2,000 square feet. His total lease area will be 8,800 square feet for the total use. Moving on to item number 2, the zoning administrator notes that industrial uses north, south, east, and west. The existing gymnastics establishment hours of operation are typically 5:30 to 8:30 during the week and 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. So we do not overlap most of the business opportunities that are in the area, so there's no crowding. My response is exactly that. Is operated successfully on this site in units 8, 9, and 10 since 2012, and no significant change in appearance or operation is anticipated. Moving on down to item 3, the zoning administrator notes that the previous received BZA case number A08-4 for recreational facility. That was the bounce and knee thing. You remember I just talked about a moment ago. Item traffic conditions and facilities. The gymnastics training centers are mostly my response. The gymnastics training sessions are mostly evenings and weekends with occasional area competition, which are usually held on weekends as well. Moving on down, the effect of the use of on the peaceful enjoyment of the people in their homes. There are really no homes in the area. I had no response to that question. It's all industrial surrounding, and we're in the middle of the airport and actually contiguous on one end of the building with the airport itself. The airport fence joins the entire left-hand side of this property all the way down. Conservation of property values, we have really no change in the use or the appearance. So I had no response on that. Zoning staff had no comment. The effect of odors, gas, dust, vibration. Again, it's kids bouncing around. It's all indoors, so we don't anticipate any change there. I made no response. Zoning staff had no comments. Most appropriate use of the land, I had no response. It's an expansion of an existing use. So we felt that was appropriate. Prior decisions by any courts, I did not have any knowledge of any of that kind of stuff, so I made no response. The staff was not aware of any litigation or court actions. Type in kind of structures and resume. We have no change to the structure, no change to the use. I had no response. And community on. Property is served by public sewer and water. The building has an entire wet charge sprinkler system. All the pull boxes and alarms and everything in place, so we have a complete modern building operation there with 24/7 monitoring by several phone lines, which are connected to the alarm system. Property currently connected to public city sewer and water. Just talked about it. Well, I'm jumping down a little bit if you there are no historic landmarks in the area. Other than the 13 traffic considerations. Number 14, we have 150 people capacity. So we have no problem there with the size of the building or the parking area. 15, the contribution, if any, the such proposed building would make towards the deterioration of the area and neighborhood. Really no response on that, but my no response was based on the fact that we have no change to the facility. There will be no output appearance of any change. And the conditions for approval are not mine. I was happy to see that one of the objectives here that you have under your goal objective number 3 on that page under conditions for grant special exceptions objective 3 was to support the retention and expansion of existing businesses while exploring opportunities for new business development. I feel very strong that's what we're doing here tonight. We're allowing this gentleman to continue a successful operation and just have a little more room to spread out on and have equipment for the kids. And in conclusion, I don't know what else to add to the record. Mark, do you think there's anything else I need to cover?
Under the conditions of grant special exception, you might want to just cover 2 and 3 as well. You already spoke about the objective 3.
I'm sorry, my ears are going, young man. You'll have to help me out here.
You might want to number 2 and number 3 for conditions for grant of special exception. Just under objective 3 that you were just talking about, if you want to hit on those elements as well.
Okay. Under number 2, proposed use of the selected location will not adversely affect the health safety of the residents in the area. The applicant has stated, I stated that the pre-hearing, there will be no changes in the services provided in the area, no additional construction inside or out, not even changing signs. Everything's going to be the same. Item B, overburden the existing public services, including public water and sewer. We have public sewer and water existing on the property, and there is no change to the use. Although we do not expect any significant change to the other kids are going to go in there. So we don't see any possible impact on public services. Number 3, standards set forth for use, which special exception granted have been met. I believe we have met those things. Under the regulations that we talked about earlier, which were the 3 acre restriction regulation on the total site was added. Mark tells me in 2015, after the initial approval in 2008. It was also added after we built our building in 2006. So I'm asking that the lease area for building at a separate address, 166. Front building is 170 Airport Drive. My building in the back, New Cuts building in the back where this facility is located is 166 Airport Drive. And it's a leased area from my brother's trust, 1.68 acres. And if that's necessary, I'd be glad to provide copies of that lease document for the file. I do not have that with me this evening. And that would end my presentation unless you don't have any.
Does anyone have any specific questions they have?
You don't have any to that.
Um,
It'd be 84 3/4 makes a difference.
I do have questions. I don't know procedurally, should let before the staff go.
I think you can ask questions of the applicant based upon the testimony they provided.
Okay, I do have a few questions and
Sure,
not a problem. I'll move up a little bit and try to read.
thank you.
You pointed out a couple of times that appears to be some concern over the provision 164-155.2A, that private indoor recreational facilities may only be located on a lot no greater than 3 acres. And that raises a question of what a lot is, I suppose, right? Which is why you're making the distinction between the leased area and the total area of the lot. I see that this particular provision was added in 2015. When did New Cut step in for balance?
New Cut is the owner of the building,
Okay.
leased from my brother's trust. We
Okay.
built the building in 06 and 07.
Okay.
Bounce with me, your first approval there, units 8, 9, 10. Got that BZA approval in 08.
Okay.
So that use was approved in 08. Your law didn't get added until 15.
Correct. So what's the name of the current business? Is it Bounce or is it something else?
It's the corporation name is TSOR.
Okay.
It's Westminster Gymnastics and Cheer is what they operate under publicly. But that business has been in place there since 2012. So they were there prior to the 2015.
Okay. The business that I just didn't know whether this new business had a trade name of Bounce or not. That was the previous.
That was the right way old business, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
now this is a new entity that took over in 2012. The 08 Bounce for Me business went bankrupt. And vacated the space. And TSOR LLC operating under the name of Westminster Gymnastics and Cheer.
And they took over in 2012?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand. Does New Cut lease just a portion of that entire lot? Does it lease the entire?
It leases 1.68 acres. I'm doing this from memory.
No, that's fine. I don't need an example.
The entire area of the property is 3.5 acres. New Cut leases 1.68 of that 3.5.
Okay, and then the tenant that wants to expand into unit number 7 leases a portion of the 1.6 acres.
Correct.
Okay. What are the remaining, what's the remaining part of the 1.6 acres used for?
There's no division. The entire building that's on the 1.68 acres is 20,800 square feet.
But it's divided into how many separate?
It was set up originally as 10 different units. 3 of them are currently occupied by the gymnastics and 1/4. And there are several other tenants that operate the rest of the Western Industrial Machining that leases 170 Airport Drive in the front.
Right.
13 or 14,000 square feet of there. They rent 4,000 square feet of it. I have Aqua Concepts is a pressure washing company. They lease 2 units, 4,000 square feet. And Mason Dixon Restorations operates out of one. If there's a fire, they go in and take care of everything, put it all back where it was, or cleaning up after fires, that kind of thing.
There's a lot of questions I have, thank you. 4 facilities for the unit 7 that you'll be expanding into. Is there a separate bathroom that exists there? Is it
Yes, sir.
separate business, right?
There's a separate bathroom in that unit. The units 8, 9, and 10 have larger facilities for boys and girls. So there's a separate boys and girls bathroom in the originally leased area. And there's a single bathroom, handicap accessible in the additional.
Right. Go ahead.
So have the units been opened up, so it's one large unit, or are they totally separate units?
3 units are the first 3 units are open.
So the walls have been removed or whatever, and it's,
Yeah, there's some office facilities. I didn't bring up out of that unit, but there's an administrative office, a front entry area, the 2 bathrooms we just spoke about, sitting area where the parents can sit, watch their little kids do their performances and so on. And but unit 7 does have a wall, but it has an opening in the wall that's like 8 feet by 10 feet. Because they use that entire area. They need main reason they wanted to rent this additional unit was because they have a tumbling track that requires a certain length. So they actually opened up a hole in the wall and this is already done before we realized this. We had to go through this BZA. So that hole in the wall is there now. So the kids can back up to the beginning of unit 7 and do their run, tumbling, flip, flop, flip, whatever they do till they get the other end, don't run into the wall. So that was the object. And also he's put a trampoline over on that side because the demand for training cheerleaders to be able to do their athletic jumps and flying stuff that they do, it's amazing. We have grandchildren at some of the high schools, and they go to watch their football games and watch what these cheerleaders do. It's just amazing. I'd break my back if I tried to do it 20 years ago. But anyway, the training has expanded from just gymnastics till 4 or 5 years ago. He started doing cheerleading training as well. So the trampoline is over there in different facilities that facilitate that cheerleading stuff.
Any further questions? I ask the staff if they want to present their report at this time.
So I'm not going to repeat everything about the title. It's case 2603, expansion of private indoor recreation facility. We've been talking about it tonight, 166 Airport Drive. As the applicant referenced, you can see the airport in this location. Building we're looking at is 166. It's on the back end of the parcel. Then 170, the front end was the mechanic or manufacturing facility.
Western Industrial Machining, huge machine shop.
And it's all zoned IR, and surrounding it is industrial restricted as well. Just quickly demonstrating that the project was advertised, both posted on site and in Carroll County Times, and placed on the city website as required for public notice. And what we're talking about is, as previously mentioned, we had an original case for a private recreation use, and that's this yellow area. These are the first 3 units that were given approval. The red area would be the expansion, unit 7. So that's what we're here for tonight, is expanding out to unit 7. I won't get it's changed a little bit, so I want to talk about I don't want to get into detail about my comments. I think the applicant covered some of the zoning administrator's comments. We really had no issues with meeting the standards for a special exception and meeting the criteria for special exception, as well as the special exception criteria, and specifically the conditions for granting a special exception. So we felt the applicant provided enough information, and from the use itself being indoor and what's surrounding the property is referenced, we don't see an increase in impact. It's really inside, the use has been existing, we're surrounded by industrial zones, no housing in the area. So again, for this particular location and the fact we had previous use approved, no issues, complaints from the time it was established up to today. So expanding that use, obviously in this location from a staff standpoint, wasn't an issue. In reference to 164, 155.2, there is a condition for a private indoor recreational facilities may only be located on a lot no greater than 3 acres. This is the only outstanding concern that was raised for this application as far as staff is concerned. And I want to read the definitions of lot because I think it's important. I believe that the argument is somewhat valid for the lease area. So definition of a lot is a piece or parcel of land occupied or intended to be occupied by a principal building and its accessory buildings to be used, developed, or built upon as a unit under single ownership, including all open spaces required by this chapter. It's also a defined portion of a subdivision or parcel of land which may be intended for building development, immediate or future, by one or more owners. So I think that first portion of it is important, that it's a piece of land occupied by a single ownership, under single ownership, in this case, that leased area that the applicant has defined. I think there could be an argument that by definition of a lot, and as explained, the lease area under single ownership, and that it could be considered a lot to meet that 164, 155.2A standard. And with that, again, staff has no issues or concerns and have felt that the applicant has addressed and met the requirements of 164, 169, the special exception criteria, and section 164, 161A, the conditions for grant of special exception. And I'm just available for any questions you may have.
So let's silo this in the sense that we have multiple uses on a singular property. Does that have any bearing? Because it would be a maximum of 3 acres on for any given conditional use, correct?
And for this special exception use only, this is specific to private indoor recreation facilities. And as referenced, this ordinance, so this additional regulations came in 2015. under ordinance 861. They didn't exist when this use was established initially. I think that's an important element as well. Special exceptions are given the ability by the BZA to expand. It was found this site was appropriate for this particular use, and they're expanding within the building that was pre-existing, developed. They're not proposing additional developments, it's just expanding the previous use that was approved by the BZA.
And obviously that would be different. If expanding a conditional use that was granted would be a different than expanding, say, a non-conforming use.
I think it's substantially different. I think both the expansion of non-conforming use, the goal is you want conformity. And the other elements, it's not creating, we're not asking for a new use. This is an established use back in 2008, no issues, no concerns, no complaints.
Sort of grandfathered in.
That's been, yes. Well, it's by special exception approving it. That use is there in perpetuity, regardless of the additional regulations. It's not a non-conforming use, it's a conforming use as a special exception use by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
And if I could help answer this question too, I think the area that's outlined in yellow, that is the limits that the special exception applies to. So yes, the definition and the requirement does talk about the idea of the lot shall not be greater than 3 acres. But when you look at the actual limits of the special exception, it's certainly less than 3 acres because it's only the 6,000, I think, square feet.
4 units out of 10.
The original was 6,800.
Yeah, sorry, it's only originally the 3 units out of 10 out of 8,800, I believe, 6,800. So, and with what the depot had said about the idea of the ownership, and I don't have the definition of lot in front of me right now, but I think there was the idea of the spirit of this is talking about having one single private indoor recreational use that is not larger than 3 acres. And here we could talk about it's certainly not larger than 3 acres.
I mean, I think this is a relatively new ordinance, it's about 10 years old. In the big scheme of things, that's new. Do we have any kind of for lack of a better term, legislative history on this and why the city council determined that private indoor recreational facilities should be on less than 3 acres, no greater than 320 persons? It seems to me like they were aiming to make sure you didn't have a giant facility, for lack of a better term again. But is there any place where we can look where there may be some notes or some guidance as to what the city council was looking for with these particular provisions?
I'm hoping there may be, if there was a staff report for that ordinance back in 2015, certainly provide the intent. My understanding of this use and talking to the attorney that requested this use to be added. And what led to this was just that, and this was through a different case, not this one at all. For a different case, the intent was that we did not want IR zone, as you mentioned, to be used for a 30-acre industrial park. Industrial zone should be industrial. The principal use is industrial. That's why this is special exception use, but it was intended to minimize its impact, both by area as well as the number of people going to the business.
That may have been about the time another large indoor sports arena was coming online in Westminster. That maybe brought, if I'm kind of looking at the timeline,
That is the case, yes.
Well, I think what Mr. Graff mentioned and discussed, I think is important for the determination that this was a pre-existing facility. And was there prior to implementation of this particular ordinance in 2015, a small expansion of that facility will be consistent with the prior use, both in terms of the size of it and the number of people that it would accommodate. And I think it's important for the board's decision
to reflect that. And that the board would reserve the right to consider this issue anew for a brand new applicant. If and when that issue comes up.
And if I could point out section 20 of the rules of procedure for the Board of Zoning Appeals. You can act on modifications to an original grant. So if we are siloing this out, this is a new use, it was pre-existing, it was approved prior to the changes. A modification to the original one is being requested. There is an increase to the intensity of the use because it's getting larger, but that leads to having a public hearing, not to ultimate denial or not allowing for it. If there was no intensification, we could have done this separately as a modification. I think looking at section 20, I would look at this as being modifying the original grant to the Board of Zoning Appeals case. That is an intensification of use because you're enlarging it, but again, just modify that original approval.
I think it's important, if the board approves this, I think we should discuss whether the board's decision incorporates that particular issue. I think the board's opinion should, board's ruling and decision should reflect, assuming we all agree again, should reflect the fact that this is an existing use. This is a modification of an existing use that also happens to be consistent with the general requirements of the special exception.
For the record, Mark, the letters that went out, all the property, were there any comments received?
No comments. No comments received either for or against the application.
Having an empty room besides me, sort of speaks to that as well.
Given that there's no people here this evening to testify before or against.
Nobody's screaming.
Well, then I don't. Any comments in here? Do we have any additional questions of staff? Council have anything more to add than what had been mentioned previously?
No, I think this has been a good discussion about some of the specifics and what the board is going to consider from both the applicant's perspective and staff's perspective.
Any other questions? Was only what I just mentioned. I think it's important not to make a decision on this based on based on the fact that the least portion of the property is less than 3 acres. I think it's my position is to approve a special exception as a modification of the previously approved use. Any other discussion about the merits of the case? We'll have to close the public hearing before we make a motion. I'll entertain a motion to close the public testimony portion. I'll move to close. It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Aye.
Links and.
Is there a motion or we still?
This is what I thought. We're to deliberate.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Got any further discussion? Unless there's any concerns, entertain a motion to which would be modifying the original special exception. Correct.
Yes.
The direction.
I might jump in. When I looked at this section, I do think that when it talks about the modifications, it is a bit different in that when I read this section of Board of Procedures rules, that is a way to change an existing special exception without a public hearing. What we're doing right now is enlarging the special exception, and it is a new applicant. It is increasing the limits of it. So I don't think this is quite a modification as anticipated by the rules of procedure. It is a new special exception, but again, it is kind of modifying the original special exception, but it doesn't quite meet that definition of the rules of procedure.
But if you look at that section, it talks about a modification to special exception. If it does say that that they don't have to hold a public hearing, but it does say no public hearing shall be required unless the proposed modification will substantially change the nature, character. So still under that modification, it gives that option. If there was no intensification, there was no material impact to the neighborhood, and there was no change to the nature of the special exception use, we could have done this without a public hearing. I think in this case, we do see an intensity in the use increasing, which would have led to the public hearing requirement.
There's an increase, a 25% increase in floor space, give or take.
No additional clients or the same use.
And no additional staffing or traffic to anticipate.
So what is the change then, the anticipation, if it's not gonna bring additional people or? Well, Mark, just to tap on when you were, the one part you were highlighting.
You have additional floor area beyond what was originally.
2,000 square foot.
Yeah, it says so intensity of the use, I would say that the applicant himself commented how the law had to be broken down to expand a function of the use that can't otherwise happen, as well as cheerleading training that is now occupying this additional space. I think you are intensifying the use that was otherwise there, or offering things that couldn't have otherwise been there until this addition came along.
And having seen both advice from your legal counsel and from the zoning administrator, it is for the board to decide how they believe this should be handled.
With that, I'll entertain a motion. I feel like we're at that point. More additional discussion.
Yeah, let's just talk through. It's a little bit of a tricky issue in the sense that we don't, we're not sitting here with the benefit of the legislative history. Okay. I think everything that we're seeing here right now suggests that looking at what 164-155.2 actually says, which is that it may not be located, that private indoor recreational facility may not be located on a lot greater than 3 acres, and that such private facilities may only be designed for capacity no greater than 320 persons. It seems clear to me, anyway, that the intent here is to ensure that a private indoor recreational facility is less than 3 acres, and that it's accommodates less than 320 persons. The concern here clearly is for a facility of exceptional size, which this particular facility isn't. But I do think that we should reserve the right as a board so that we're not setting a precedent that our decision is specifically tied to the fact that this is an existing business that is looking for a small expansion that is consistent with the spirit of 164-155.2. And that if the application, another application is made in the future by a facility that doesn't have a previous special exception to use the land, that this decision would not have any binding effect on a future application for a new business.
Well said. Thank you.
If you can put all that in.
I think we have an attorney who said,
Yes, yeah, and that can be made into the board's decision to ensure
This,
that it's.
this is unique. It's a
Right.
portion of a building that the 3 acre guideline applied to, but it's a small portion of that building. It's not the rec facility itself.
correct.
If I may,
Yes, of course.
the entire 3 acres contains the building in the front, which is Western Industrial Machining. 14,000 some odd square feet. The building in the back is 20,800 square feet total. So we're talking about a 2,000 square foot unit 7 is a 2,000 square foot park of almost 35,000 square feet of industrial area. So, your point's well taken. It's a very small park. And I understand what you're saying. Obviously, they do not want copper mine moving in here to the industrial park. Not to mention the name on the record, but they could come in and put a 20,000 or 30,000 square foot recreational facility in an industrial park, and obviously folks didn't want industrial land used entirely for recreational purposes. So I think we're proportionately here. I understand the technicalities and how you have to walk through that process, but what we're asking for here is relatively small.
Understood. What we don't want, I'll make it very clear, again, if this issue should come back down the road, what we don't want is somebody to have an 18-acre lot and come in and subdivide it, but essentially have the same or similar use. It's just that they're playing games with the language of the statute. And I don't think that that's what we're doing here today. I think the fact that the business was already there and it's looking for a minor modification of its existing space is a critical component of my position as a board member, assuming that the rest of the board joins in.
I agree.
By subdivision, I mean sublease. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? With that, I'll entertain a motion. Yeah.
I will move that we approve the special exception with the conditions that I just set forth, which is that this special exception should be seen as a modification of pre-existing use.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Right.
Made, seconded. All those in favor of approval of the modification as presented, say aye.
And I'm sorry, one other issue, and of course it has to meet any and all other conditions.
I think, yeah, I think I got that. You wanted to add this particular condition in addition to all the staff's ones that's the condition.
Yeah, page 11 of the staff report, staff. Just two conditions.
Correct.
Fine with that. All right, so motion remains the same and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Mark, I think the My last conversation with the county was that they were here the last guy in the door.
Do we need to have a vote to adjourn the meeting?
That's,
We're still in the meeting right now.
may I staff if there's any agenda items for,
No agenda items for next month, not anymore. I was concerned that maybe this might have been, but no. All right, no agenda items for next month.
okay,
For adjournment?
motion been made,
I'll second it.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Or adjourned.